everybody, and welcome back to 3-2 Brew. Today we're going to be doing our weekly analysis recap for Project Goblin Guide. In the pre-modern scene, been doing this testing for a while. I believe this is week 6 we'll be doing here. So this was a pretty eventful week. I had a lot of action that went down. I'm recording this very late at night. There's a snowstorm going on right now in New England. And my wife is back home because we are Birds fans, and she went home to celebrate with the parade, so go Birds. But yeah, I ran through a pretty heavy week of testing. Let's talk about the deck. So this deck has 2 Ancient Tombs. I trimmed down a lot of pieces. I'm only running 2 Matrons. I'm running 3 Flunkies. I have a small toolbox of Tinkerer, Goblin King, and Goblin Sharpshooter with only 2 Matrons. So it was a very interesting week. We didn't post as good of a result as previous in terms of win percentage, but it was still a very high win percentage. Most of the games were played online, but I did have 5 matches that I played in person, which I'll get into and review on my Blue Sky here. What did I like about this deck? There was tons of games where Ancient Tomb felt fantastic. Like absolutely, utterly fantastic. This card, at first, when I first tried it, I did not like this card very much. I thought it was very mid. I didn't think it was the best option. But as time has progressed and I've played more with it, I think Ancient Tomb is criminally underrated in this archetype. And the reasons for it is it lets you keep pace if you're on the draw in certain matchups where it's very key. One of them being the mirror. If you're on the draw in the mirror and on your turn 2, you can drop a Goblin Matron, tutor up a Ringleader, and then on your turn 3, drop a Ringleader. You're essentially keeping pace with what they're doing. They have no advantage being on the play. Yes, it costs you 2 life. But nonetheless, it's still very, very powerful. I've been very impressed with Ancient Tomb as a whole in this package. I like it a lot more than Wasteland. I talked to someone today about Wasteland. They're on 4 Wastelands. I respect that, but I also just don't want to run the risk of losing a land if I were to waste someone. Like, there's versatility. There's bonuses and negatives. So when you're playing this deck, you don't always have to waste. That's very true. But then it's just a colorless source with no other upside. Wastelands are one and done. That's my biggest problem with them. Yeah, they're great. They can knock out, key pieces like a City of Brass, or they can knock out Treetop Village, stuff like that. But they also just don't get to where I need them to. They're just a colorless then. Rashad Import, on the other hand, is extremely malleable. You can continually tap down a target land. You can play a lackey on 1. And then on your turn, if they don't do anything, beat into them. Drop in whatever you need to drop in. And then on their turn, you portal. So you're already ahead on resources on board, and they're behind in terms of mana. Rashad Import has felt amazing. Ancient Tomb has felt amazing. This is a topic we will come back to and discuss towards the end. But I just wanted to put my initial thoughts out there. Flunkies feel like the worst card in the deck in the best possible way, if that makes any sense. Oftentimes when I'm sideboarding with this deck, it can be difficult into the board for items to cut. Flunkies are an easy cut. I actually like this card a lot. It puts down our curve just slightly, and it is very much a house. If you drop a turn 4 War Chief into a Flunky, that's 5 damage. It's no different than dropping a turn 4 War Chief into a Pile Driver that turn. Just want to put that out there for everybody. Pile Driver obviously has more upside the longer it goes on, but regardless, it's still there. So I like Flunkies. I think Matron as a 2 of is the correct number for me personally. I'm not looking to be toolboxy here. I'm not looking to do anything sneaky. I'm looking to be a bit more low down and pick up the answers. Today, playing in person, I screwed up a Matron tutor. Won't sit here in front about it. Just didn't pick the right card at the right time and lost me the entire match. It was game 3. It was a key decision moment. I tried playing around some blue blasts and, didn't know if I could really get there, etc. I should have just played aggressive instead of playing scared. I got a little soft, and that's going to happen. But 2 matrons feels good. 3 is a little too clunky, I think. I like 2 a lot. Other than that, sideboard, I did end up moving Zoran orbs. I played a couple matches without it, and then I slid the Zoran orbs in. Orb feels very good in this deck. I haven't played against a whole lot of Sly, but I think that theoretically, when I think about it, it's a necessity if you're running Ancient Tombs. Today, playing Phyrexian Furnace felt very in between. And we'll come back to this, but I don't know if Phyrexian Furnace is the axis this deck wants to fight on, and I will come back to that. The Blast package felt fantastic. Tranquil Domain feels great. Color of the Claw feels very good as well. I know this is a bit of an odd call. I prefer this to be a true 2 of. I think playing against control, this is your true equalizer. It's my personal opinion. Doesn't get blue blasted, none of that nonsense. They have to spend a counterspell on it. And if you can get them into a position where you've been porting them down and they're underneath a port and they have to rip off a Wrath of God, and they're like, all right, thank God I just wiped out 4 goblins. And then you're like, surprise, Color of the Claw, and then they're staring down 5 2/2s. Life becomes very difficult for them. And I like that. Pyrokinesis almost sees no play out of this deck. Spoke to another person today who was on Goblins that I played against at the tournament I was at. He didn't have any Pyrokinesis in his deck, and we spoke on it, and he was kind of like, yeah, there's not a great matchup for it. It's like Elves, Sly, that's it really. It doesn't kill what you need it to kill, if that makes any sense. It doesn't kill an Angel. It doesn't kill in the show, but it doesn't kill a lot of things. So we'll come back to that. But in my eyes, out the sideboard right now, really we only have 2 slots to swap, because I think this is going to turn into Crypt, which I'll get to. Let's just talk about the data first. So this week overall, we saw a 62.5% win rate, which is lower than the previous, but we had a lot more matches this week. I ended up playing this a ton. I played only 1.8. I ended up playing 16 matches. I had a really interesting result as well. We did play quite a few brews, went 50% on that. I'm okay with that. Brews are going to get us sometimes they won't. Angry Hermit beat us. That was a tough one. It's really hard for me to swallow. Mud was a tough one for me to get through as well. And we lost to a blue-black Infestation deck, which is very great. My opponent is fantastic. I really want to play against them again. They're a great player. But I'll come back to that at the end when we do our Blue Sky review. I beat Blue-White Control, which was not a standstill. It's truly Blue-White Control. I dropped the Goblins. I ended up beating Sly. It was red-green Sly, different brew. I went 1-on-1 versus Standstill, which I will take every day of the week. I'll split Standstill till the day I die. We beat a Bant Terrageddon. And then I took out a blue Tide and a blue-red Tide. And I also beat a blue-white Replenish deck and dropped one. We played some true decks this week. If you look at it through and through, it's not bad. It's what, a total of, out of the 10 of the decks we played, it's not too shabby. I felt good. I enjoyed this deck, and as we begin looking at, I haven't updated this again. Oh, sorry. I haven't updated it again, and obviously this includes all the data. But when you start looking at the Duress crew, we are currently overall past where they were at for total win percentage. So we're just about a 53%. Very nice. We have a win split on Sly just by a little bit, which is a bit of a surprise. I haven't played much against Elves. Terrageddon, we're below where it's the Duress crew had us technically at. Should also be extended. Again, I think that's just reps. Tog, we've only played one time. Oath, I think we only played one time. We're lower on blue-white Replenish. That's been a very difficult matchup for me to push through. I need a lot more time on that. We're very good against Control. Enchantress, we're heavily favored in, but it doesn't feel that way, personally. So, don't know if it's just me and my slow brain or what, but Madness, we're up on. Stifle Knot, we're below where we need to be at. The Rock, we are way below where we need to be at. And Stasis, we only have one match. But Standstill and Tog, we're actually up on Standstill, statistically speaking. So the top decks in the format are Terrageddon. I'm going to highlight these. Are Terrageddon, Blue-White Replenish, Stifle Knot, and really the Rock. And all of these, we have a losing percentage against the field. So we really need to start zeroing in these last 2 weeks here and building out our sideboard of what do we want to play against. Let me hop over to my Blue Sky then. So I ended up playing a tournament down at ELD Games in Massachusetts that the Duress crew puts on. They're a fantastic group of people if you've never heard of them. They're like the New England linchpins for all of our pre-modern stuff we do. But I ran red, green goblins through here. Match 1, I played against Blue-White Replenish. Game 1, I just got flat out clobbered, and then it was a very lazy mole on me. I didn't actually mole. I'm used to playing EDH, and I hate mulliganing in EDH because it's so many darn cards to shuffle. So I just don't. And I lost 0-2. I had 2 naturalize this game too, but they just tossed away. They had an attunement, and they just tossed so many cards into the bin that were opalescents, and I couldn't do anything about it. So, yeah, and then game 1, I just got comboed out. Is what it is. My opponent here was very serious, and I'm not very serious when I play in person. I think it's part of the issue. It's something I need to really actually think about when I show up to this regional. Do I want to be like nice and friendly, or do I want to be a bit more serious and stoic? It's a tough one for me. I show up to play Premodern to meet people and hopefully make some friends. I enjoy the people I play with. A lot of my opponents are great people. Really, you know, invested in the format, or they're new, or they're just invested in Magic in general and are happy to be there. So for me to show up and like be serious and spike a tournament, or at least try to spike a tournament, it's very hard because I want to chat with my opponents. I want to know about their deck and how they got there and everything. Like, I just like to get to talk to people. Something I got to work on, I think. Time and a place. I had a bye round 2. Very sad. I always call it the shameful losers bye. Round 3, we played a really cool blue-red tide control deck. We took down 2-0. I was just chipping them down game 1, and then they tapped out for a tide and targeted my 4 lands, and I floated green and a red, one off a pain land, and just zapped away their tide with one of the 2 naturalizes I had main board. They were a bit confused how I got there, and I walked back through my mana, and they understood and scooped, and then we went to game 2, and they just could not find red. And I just put consistent pressure on. I even pushed through a completely whiffed ringleader, which is how bad they drew. So I got relatively lucky, but that's, again, part of the variance of a deck. They did see the top half of their decks. They probably saw some red sources, but the pressure we put on disrupted their plan to be able to pick them up. I had some late updates here as I was just playing and talking with people. As I said, I have a tough time not doing it. Round 4 was against Blue-Black Infestation. A friend of one of my buddies, Jonathan, who showed up. He's a hardcore Legacy player. I'm going to link his channel down below. I just found that. I need to watch some of it. He's a big Rhinos Legacy player. But he was on Blue-Black Infestation. He actually ended up post the initial Swiss second. And there were long games that came down to the absolute wire. Some of the best Magic, definitely the best Magic I played on the day, but some of the best Magic I've played in a while. Blue-Black Infestation with just oodles of draw. They got AK and gushes and everything, and I was just sitting there, basically never found the blast when I needed to, or the naturalize, and just was just trying to push through and could not get there. And it came down to me drawing blast and then naturalize in just the wrong order. If I could have naturalized and then blasted, I would have had a lot better option, because they had a chill, a zombie. I was at 2 life and I had a matron out. They had a chill, a zombie, and they had a psychotalk. And if I would have had the naturalize for the chill, and I would have been able to drop something else. I think I had like a 1 or 2 drop that I could have dropped alongside of it, which would have helped me block more, and then I could have red blasted the Tog. It just didn't come out that way, and that's okay. Those games are good. Here's the thing, everybody. When you watch this channel, you're not going to watch someone win a lot. I don't know if you're new here, just letting you know. If you've been here a while, you should know that. I look to play good Magic. fun Magic. Magic I enjoy. Magic that's like really, really, really good time for me. And I like playing good games, even when I lose. That blue-black infestation match was really great. I wanted to run that back instantly. It's like, all right, like, this is great. So, tough loss, but really good games. Couldn't ask for much better. That's the type of Magic I want to play every single time I sit down. Round 5 was a mirror. I had some poor hands. My opponent, Nick, was a fantastic guy. Really, really nice. We talked a ton about like sideboards and game plans and his differences from my deck and stuff like that. I lost 0-2 on a game 2 single land keep. 5 turns straight, no lands. I had a disgusting hand. I think I had Lackey, 2 Mog Fanatics, and one of the Cycler lads, Gem Palm. I actually drew a Gem Palm and I drew another Fanatic. I had all the removal in the world. I just couldn't find my lands to get it online. So I was forced to make, Fanatic sacks that weren't great. They had a Fanatic for my Lackey and stuff like that. So, yeah, just a poor keep. Probably should have mulliganed, but I was on the play and I wanted to try and get under them. And I was like, you know what, 24 land deck, etc., etc. So, but round 6 was the holy baby, Beefcake. Ended up winning on a 2-0 sweep. Opponent was relatively newer to the format. Extremely good dude. We sat and chatted. He's a big Canadian Highlander guy, which is really cool. I'm going to check out some videos on that. I ended up technically 3-3, really 2-3 on a 5-5 record. Not great, not bad. Ancient Tombs, the validity of them, really more on the number of them and if they should be Ancient Tombs, which I'll touch on here in a moment. But also just getting better at mulligans and sideboards IRL. I like chatting way too much. I'll sit and I'll talk with my opponent. It's me. They're never really asking me that many questions. Sometimes they are, but 9 out of 10 times I'm sitting there asking them, yo, hey, where are you from? I get to know, and they're like, well, where are you from? And I let them know, and we just start chatting about random stuff, and I ask questions about their deck, or I'm like, oh, I really like your basics. Stuff like that, where I just like to talk about stuff like that. Like, I love chatting about basics, why they chose them. My blue-black infestation opponent was playing all Mirage basics, and Mirage basics are some of the best basics in my opinion, but I'm very high on 5th edition, and we talked about that. There's probably certain plays I made that could have been tighter because of stuff like that, but again, like, I like those memories, so it's tough for me to give them away. But regardless, let's talk about kind of the pain points here and the future plans the next 2 weeks with this deck. Main board, creature-wise, I think that this is it. I don't see this changing anytime soon. I don't know what I would change. But there is still some contention. I guess actually let's talk with the lands first. Ancient Tomb. I have 2 concerns with Ancient Tomb. First is the life. Second is the number of copies. How badly do I want to push Ancient Tomb out? And how much better is a Tomb over the course of most matchups than a Port? These are the 2 major questions I have in my head. I think Port is amazing in this deck. Like, just straight up and down. There's only one time Port is bad, and that's when you have it with like just Port and Mossfire Valley. But even then, it's not horrid. It casts a good chunk of the deck, So I'm not 110% sure where I'm going to land with Tombs. And I also don't know if they should be Tombs. I often wonder if they should be Cydia Traders. Like, how much less value is it? Being able to take no damage off of Cydia Traders is not to be trifled with. That's huge. It also makes like the Zoran Orb plan better. That way, if you have a Tomb out and you tap it for 2 and then you drop a land, you can sack it to the Orb. There were some questions on the Orb from Nick, my Goblin opponent, who was like, is it really worth it? Would I rather just be playing Goblins? I do think Orb is really good against Sly. I think it's a great equalizer. So, I don't know. This week's going to be a little bit of soul searching. I've considered 1 Tomb, 1 Cydia Traders, 3 Port. But I think I'm going to start out by running 1 Tomb and 4 Ports and just seeing how it goes. I personally think Port is better than Tomb, but I don't know. I'm very much split on it. I can't decide. There's not enough time left for me to really dive deep. It's a little frustrating that I got on this plan so late, but that's my own fault. I was like anti-tomb because of my experience. But yeah, tombs are going to be toyed with a bit. I'm going to sit and ponder on it. I do have a lot of notes on these games. And one of the largest notes you see when you look at 1 point over here, even from 1.7 forward, you have Ancient Tomb won me game 3. Ancient Tomb really felt like a house on the draw for accelerating. Game 1 Tomb was great. Game 2 was able to push through siege gangs from the opposition. Ancient Tomb was great both games. Killer in this matchup. Maybe we need to bring back in orbs. Ancient Tomb was bad here. Sorry, this is a Sly matchup. We have less about the tombs down here, so I don't know. Maybe it was better in that build. I'm not 100% sure, but I do think that tombs are very good in this deck. I just don't know to what degree and what capacity. And then second is the board here. I believe Phyrexian Furnace is just going to become Crypt. So let's talk about axis that we want to fight on. I've recently been listening to the I Got Questions podcast, and the Dreadnought episode, the guest whose name I can't remember, talks a lot about what axis you want to fight Dreadnought on. Are you trying to win the late game, the early game, etc.? And I've been kind of doing this in control mirrors, or control matchups, I should say, without really thinking it through. There was no one home, but I was just doing it. And I've been very much working on the axis for like Pyroblasts for my blast package. If I'm playing, standstill, my blasts only hit standstill and they only hit factor fiction. Or if they're trying to hit something key, I'll defend it. But there's like very few cases I won't really use it on a counterspell. Unless it's like a siege gang commander maybe. But it's very rare for me to do so. I'll pick and choose my places. So I've been incidentally playing more long game kind of tempo. Like, I don't even know. But I need to really think about the sideboard. Phyrexian Furnace fights on the axis of it's fantastic when you draw it early game and it's terrible when you draw it late game. But the Crypt is often medium when you draw it early game, or really medium early game, medium mid game, medium late game, even schmedium if you want to call it that way. It's never amazing, never really does exactly what you need, but I think it does. Furnace has a very middling ceiling and a very low floor. And Crypt has a very high floor, but very low ceiling. So it's like, do I want a higher level of variance or a lower version of it? Yeah, you can cycle Furnace, but I don't know. It's down to the axis of, do I want to fight a long attrition game? Or do I want to fight dirty combo? That's what Crypt really deals with. Crypt deals with dirty combo. Angry Hermit. I lost that in the league you'll be seeing this coming days. Just got diced up. Couldn't do anything about it. It didn't matter. Like, they fought through all my protection. Would a Crypt help? Maybe, probably not, but it would have done a little bit more, I think. So that's its own separate beast, but I think that Furnace is not the axis this deck wants to fight on. This deck is not meant to go long. At least not long enough to where you're really chipping down value. So, especially with AK gaining a lot of traction as of recent, I do believe that Crypt is the better option. It also doesn't tax your mana as much. You don't have to, hold a mana up to hit a key piece out of a graveyard. You just hit the whole darn thing. And then Pyrokinesis. This needs to go. Sorry, everybody, but Pyrokinesis ain't it. Not gonna lie to you. Yeah, it'll make our Elves matchup worse. It'll make our Sly matchup slightly worse. But I really don't like Pyrokinesis in this deck. It doesn't feel good. So I don't know what I'm gonna bring in instead. There's a card that name I can't recall, but it basically makes it so that green and white creatures can't block, and it's a way to push through Phantom Nishobas or even like really Terrageddon. So And it has flashback. It's like a deep analysis, but for like unblockable. Very interesting. Forgot the name of it. It's a very good card though. My opponent today, Nick, huge shout out to you, showed it to me. Think I'd like one of them in here. And I am contemplating going up to 3 naturalized main board and going down to 33 creatures and maybe putting a Goblin King in the sideboard, but I'm entirely undecided on that. I'm not certain as of yet. There's going to be some changes. I'm going to have to sit and ponder it for a while, which I kind of hate, but it is super necessary, so I'm going to do it. I'm thinking maybe 3 naturalizes main with 1 Tinker and then 3 Tranquil Domains on the sideboard with that 1 push through card. I don't know. I got to look at it. But overall, I don't want to drag this out too long, but overall, this is a very tough deck. I'm still not sold on this deck. I'm not unconfident, but I'm also not like gung-ho for it. The matchups I have faced, and at least what I have experienced through my time playing, I am soft against the best decks in the format. You know, I'm not posting even a 50% rate against them. That's an issue. It's a legitimate issue. And I got to build the board to really look at that and the axis I want to fight on. So that's what I'm going to be thinking about before I put the next version of this deck together. I need to think about that sideboard and how I'm going to fight that. And what fights the most axis as well. Sorry. But what fights the most axis? Replenish and Terrageddon. A lot of that gets fought by having no furnace, but crypts instead. So you can just crypt them whenever you need to. And then you got Stifle Knot and the Rock, and Crypt helps there. So should Crypt maybe be a 3-0? It's just that type of stuff that I really need to think about and see how I should be running through. Is Pyroblast and Reb correct? I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure. We're already hedging against control with Color the Claw. So I need to spend some time thinking about it, but I do think that you're going to be seeing a slightly different deck when we're done with all this. But most of the main board is kind of locked in, is how I'm feeling. So sorry, everybody, this isn't exactly definitive. I hope by the end of next week, I will be fully locked in on my 70, basically at least 73, maybe a couple of tweaks here or there. But overall, the deck is winning. I still need reps with it. I really need in-person reps. I need to practice in person a lot more. It's much different than EDH, even the league I played in, just because it's a whole different atmosphere. I'm nervous. It's new people, etc. So a lot for me to still work through, but I think we're really zeroed in on it. I appreciate everybody who's left comments. I love you. You've helped me out a ton. I would not be in this position without you. So thank you all who have commented. You know who you are. I don't remember everybody's name. I believe it's a lot of folks from Spanish-speaking countries, which, honest to God, I love the fact that you watch my videos, and this is just based purely off of name speculation. If I'm incorrect, roast me. Also, Giuliano, if I remember correctly. I can't remember, but you told me I could pronounce your name incorrect. I'm sorry. I am a dumb American. I really am. So I appreciate you, though. I appreciate you correcting me and telling me I'm wrong. I love that type of stuff. If I'm wrong, just tell me, you know? I'll try to learn from my mistakes. But regardless, everybody, thank you very much. This has been the recap, I believe, for week 6 of 3-2 Brew. I hope everybody enjoyed. I'm very excited to continue the Project Goblin Guide and hopefully cap out. I would like a top 8 finish at the regional. It's a bit ambitious, but I would like to have it after all this time and effort. So we'll see if we get there. I'm hoping we do. But this has been 3-2 Brew. And until next time, cheers.